My sister's wedding took place without me being invited. As I stood there, a paper plate of macaroni salad in hand, I found myself positioned between the lemonade table and a cooler brimming with beer. June had arrived, bringing with it a heat so intense that the plastic forks would bend at the slightest attempt to scoop up potato salad. As my aunt set the mood with a Tracy Lawrence playlist, the distant sound of a toddler's cries echoed near the bounce house. It was my cousin Cassie who uttered those words. She had just strolled over from the grill, flipping her hair out of her face with one hand while holding a hot dog in the other. With a bright smile, she asked, "Are you flying out for Maddie's big day, or just driving in?" I blinked. "What's significant?" "Occasion," she chuckled, believing I was being ironic. "The wedding is quite amusing. At last, she is tying the knot with that fellow who has an affinity for hair gel." "Is it James, then?" I smiled as if I understood her completely. "Indeed, quite so." Then I took my leave to attend to the deviled eggs, a euphemism for retreating to my car, where the air conditioning blasted, and I struggled to navigate the unsettling quiet that had unexpectedly settled in my chest. Isabel was my cherished little sister. After my father passed away, I took on the responsibility of raising her. I gently held her hair back as she succumbed to nausea at her inaugural college party, and I found myself sending her money on multiple occasions when she overlooked the impending rent deadline. I was the one who sent her a weighted blanket during her initial panic attacks, the one who remained on the phone with her the night she feared James was unfaithful. And now, here she was, preparing to marry him, complete with floral arrangements, a venue, and, it seemed, a guest list. I was not part of that. I lingered in my car for a full 10 minutes, grappling with the swirling emotions within me. Was I truly hurt, simmering with anger, or merely fatigued? All three received an affirmative response. Within the confines of the house, a slice had been taken from the strawberry sheet cake. Through the window, I observed Cassie engaged in conversation with my mother, who donned her familiar soft blue summer dress, exuding an air of perfect composure, as if the world around her was precisely as it should be. The plate rested in my hand, drawing my gaze. The macaroni glistened under the oppressive heat. They had orchestrated a wedding, a celebration my sister had failed to mention, and somehow I was the sole person taken aback by it all. After a span of 2 days, I finally picked up the phone. To call my mother, it wasn't due to a necessity for tranquility. I wasn't precisely filled with anger. I had no expectation of receiving an apology. It seems I simply required the confirmation of her voice, the acknowledgement that they had orchestrated everything in my absence. She answered on the second ring. "Hi, honey," she said, her voice radiating warmth and efficiency, much like the tone she reserved for store clerks and church volunteers. She came to life in my mind, standing in the kitchen, wiping the counter with a dish towel, the phone cradled between her cheek and shoulder. "Everything's fine. I just have a quick question," I said, making an effort to keep my tone cheerful. "Is Maddie tying the knot?" A moment of stillness, a gentle inhalation, the soft thud of a refrigerator door sealing shut. "Well," she remarked, as though I had inquired about the arrival of the mail. "Indeed, it will be next month, to be precise. We were uncertain about your availability. I was unaware that it was unfolding." She let out a soft, melodic laugh. "Oh, Elise. Please, let's not be overly theatrical." Once more, that word surfaces, dramatic. It was the identical tone she employed when I wept at Dad's funeral, urging me to compose myself. The very same one she employed when I reached out to her tears, streaming down my face, after the loss of my job 5 years prior. Do not let your imagination run wild, my dear. You will find your way back to solid ground. The silence hung in the air, a palpable presence between us. "You know," she continued, "Isabel really desired something intimate, just family. I am. Family, she sighed. Indeed, your constant travels tend to complicate matters. James's parents contributed significantly, and the available spots were few. You comprehend. I refrained from voicing that thought, for I understood the wisdom in silence. Are you feeling upset, perhaps? She inquired, her tone unexpectedly gentler. I find myself in a state of uncertainty about my identity. A different kind of silence, one that weighed more heavily in the air. We believed that this approach would alleviate the burden on all involved, making things simpler for everyone. Simple, that was the term. It wasn't that I was forgotten. Rather, I was the simplest to dismiss. I informed her that I needed to return to my duties, despite the fact that I was not scheduled to work that day. "All right, sweetheart," she said, and just like that, we hung up. I gazed at my phone for what felt like an eternity. Then I navigated to my calendar, scrolling through to the upcoming month, my eyes landing on the weekend of the wedding. No plans in place, no response required, no place to sit. I refrained from slamming doors or sharing anything on the internet. I refrained from reaching out to Isabel to seek an explanation or compose an elaborate, sorrowful message that would likely go unanswered. In a twist of fate, I found myself purchasing a ticket to Iceland. I kept it to myself, not sharing with my colleagues, nor with the neighbor who typically collected my mail during my absences, and certainly not with my friend Nina, who had supported me through to breakups and a layoff, and who knew my coffee order better than the barista did. I simply ceased to respond to inquiries. On that Friday, I submitted my vacation request to HR, packed a modest suitcase, and left a solitary sticky note on the fridge. Departed, do not stay awake for me. The journey from Boston to Reykjavik unfolded in a serene hush. I chose not to watch a movie. I have not engaged with the text. I gazed at the flight map displayed on the small seatback screen, a luminous white line curving over Greenland like a wound. As dawn broke, I found myself in a rental cabin, nestled within a hillside of volcanic rock, draped in a cloak of moss and enveloped in tranquility. The lake beyond appeared to be encased in ice, despite the truth of its liquid state. The morning air cloaked the windows in a veil of fog. A subtle scent of sulfur lingered in the shower. It captured my heart right away. For an entire day, I refrained from glancing at my phone. On the second day, I strolled to the brink of the lagoon. A wooden bench lay half submerged in snow, and I lingered there until the chill numbed my hands beyond sensation. I captured an image. It lacked perfection. I did not wear a smile. A solitary figure, clad in a wool coat, poised by the tranquil waters beneath an expanse of white sky. No tag, only the visual. I shared it on my Instagram story. In just 10 minutes, the scene list illuminated Isabel, my cousin, Cassie. My mother's silence enveloped the room, leaving no space for utterance. I was taken by surprise that they did not. The essence was lost on that notion. What mattered was that they noticed my presence. Absent from the bridal shower, absent from the rehearsal dinner, not at the wedding planning brunch I had no prior knowledge of, but rather here, in a land of glaciers, steam, and profound silence. I found myself briefly in the light. The following day, I shared nothing, simply existed. I sipped on the bitter brew from a ceramic mug, my gaze fixed on the fog as it gracefully enveloped the lake. In my journal, I penned down not a single verse of poetry, but rather a collection of items, simple lists of tasks I was free from here. Let's skip the pleasantries. I made no effort to disguise my true feelings. Kindly note that an RSVP is not required. There is no gift registry available. Just me, the whisper of ice moving with the breath of the wind, though no one had uttered the date aloud. I was acutely aware that the wedding was set for that weekend. I came to understand it, much like how one uncovers secrets that families prefer to keep hidden, through the whispers of social media and the casual remarks that slip through the cracks. My cousin Trish shared a boomerang of champagne flutes, clinking, accompanied by a caption that declared love is in the air. Another person tagged a boutique hotel located 2 hours outside Albany. That sufficed. On a Saturday morning in Iceland, the world was draped in a silvery hush. As I settled by the window, a blanket draped over my legs, I observed the gentle light inching its way across the surface of the lake in this place. The sound of church bells was absent. No curated wedding playlists or the sound of bridesmaids giggling behind closed doors, only snow-steam. Silence envelops the air. I prepared a warm bowl of oatmeal. I refrained from checking my phone. As the afternoon waned, it was probable that the wedding had commenced. Perhaps Isabel was gliding down the aisle in a delicate lace gown, her sleeveless silhouette catching the light, while our mother wept in perfect synchrony. Soft lighting danced upon pastel flowers, casting a gentle joy while in the photographs. A chair seemed to have vanished, leaving a whisper of absence, not in a clear manner. They could have occupied the seat or shifted the arrangement of the row, yet I was acutely aware of my designated place, and it was not here. On that night, I shared a fresh image. My hand cradled a ceramic cup set against the serene expanse of the frozen lake. The sky shimmered in hues of lavender. One of my nails bore a small chip in its polish. There is nothing glamorous about it, nothing staged. Once more, the scene unfolded swiftly, arriving in mere minutes. Isabel, our matriarch, 2 of her friends whom I hadn't conversed with in ages. No messages have come through yet. Silence lingered, unbroken. Yet, on this occasion, I sensed it. Deeply, the stillness had transformed. It had transformed into something beyond mere absence. It was an absence felt deeply. I envisioned them glancing at their phones in the interludes between dances or desserts. In a fleeting moment of stillness, I find myself reflecting on my post, pondering its significance. Indeed, it did. It signified my awareness. It signified that my gaze was drawn not from envy or spite, but rather from the recognition that I had once held significance in this place. And now I find myself without it, insufficient to receive an invitation, yet ample to linger at the periphery of the scene. For 2 days, I refrained from posting. Allow them to perceive the stillness. Allow them to weave whatever narrative they required for their own understanding. I found myself with no further contributions to make. 3 days post-wedding, I stirred awake to the persistent buzzing of my phone on the nightstand. The clock had just struck 6, and the world outside was draped in a delicate veil of pale grey, as dawn began to unfurl its quiet presence, a hue so captivating, it rendered the very notion of sunlight a distant memory. The phone incessantly vibrated with incoming messages, unanswered calls, additional messages. Initially, I entertained the notion that perhaps someone had passed away. Yet the names displayed on the screen revealed an entirely different narrative. Lindsay, aunt, Celia, my mother. Subsequently, it was Isabel's college roommate. And then there was Nina, the sole person who ever truly spoke the truth to me. Her message was brief, no salutation. Direct and to the point. This is something you must witness. She provided a link, a TikTok video, a mere glimpse, a fleeting image, of what appeared to be a reception hall, accompanied by an indistinct blur soaring through the air. For a moment, I paused. Doubt lingered in my mind as I contemplated whether to unveil it. Uncertainty lingered within me, casting doubt on my desire. For knowledge yet, I clicked. Amidst the chaos, the video commenced with shouts, gasps, and frenetic movement. A bridesmaid was shrieking, not in celebration, but in rage. Her voice trembled as she cast a bouquet across the room. Not in ritual, but in fury. Individuals stood, shifting and retreating. A centerpiece was knocked over by someone. A distant crash of glass echoed from beyond the frame. At that moment, the lens captured Isabel. She wept. Not gentle tears, but trembling, red-faced mascara streaming down. Her voice rose in a fervent shout, though the sound wavered and twisted, rendering her words nearly indecipherable. The subsequent voice resonated with clarity. You were my dearest companion, Maddie. You and my maid of honor were entwined with him all along. The voice was unmistakably Amber's, her closest companion since their freshman year. The very same girl who assisted in orchestrating the bachelorette getaway. The very same girl who seemingly intended to wed James herself. My stomach plummeted. Another guest's voice, tinged with half laughter and disbelief, remarked, "That's the maid of honor." The camera swept gracefully to reveal James, caught in a moment of stillness, his hands raised as if attempting to subdue untamed beasts. He uttered a remark that went unnoticed by all. It was of no consequence. The crowd began to shift, guests murmuring softly, clutching their coats, collecting their purses. A woman exited, her napkin still clutched in her hand. The video concluded with Isabel collapsing onto the floor. I viewed it on 2 separate occasions. With a deliberate motion, I flipped my phone face down and let my gaze drift toward the ceiling of my cabin. The wooden beams groaned under the weight of the chill in the air. In the distance, a bird emitted a sound that eluded my ability to define. The incessant buzzing resumed once more. Voicemails linger, missed calls accumulate, and new texts stack atop the old. The unspoken truth lingered in the air, a silent understanding that needed no articulation. Kindly give me a call. Your sister is quite the chaotic whirlwind. Your presence is greatly missed at home. Elise, if you would be so kind. By midday, a voicemail from my mother awaited me. Her voice trembled, flickering in and out like a distant radio transmission from a forgotten era. In her words, she expressed that Isabel was refusing to eat, that the family felt a sense of shame, and that whispers circulated among the people. She failed to acknowledge my correctness. She offered no apology. She failed to inquire about my well-being. She simply remarked, "We are at a loss without you." I perched by the window, my bare feet resting against the chill of the floor, observing the lake dance with the gentle caress of the wind. Once more, my phone vibrated with a persistent buzz. This time, the message came from Amber. It is not a call, a simple note. I regret that you were not present. It's likely you would have intervened. She had aired, I would not have intervened in her course of action. I would have allowed the truth to reveal itself. Much as I did by early afternoon, my phone ceased its incessant ringing and began to plead for attention. The voicemails had shed their briskness and annoyance. They had taken on a gentler quality. Now my mother departed with 6 of them in less than 3 hours, each one increasingly gripped by fear compared to the last. In the third, she was weeping or attempting to do so. Her voice faltered in ways it once remained steadfast. "Elise," she murmured, "your sister is heartbroken. It seems she hasn't emerged from her room since Saturday. Words escape us in her presence. Your presence is greatly missed at home. You have consistently embodied strength, the individual who binds all together." Once more, that line appears. The resilient one, the individual who possessed the skill to bear burdens, who never sought to be borne aloft. I chose not to reply. Instead, I heated water for tea and ventured outside, allowing the steam to embrace my face as the wind sliced through my sleeves. The sky stretched endlessly above, a low, heavy expanse enveloped in silence. I captured an image of the horizon, where a delicate pink light lingered at the brink of a glacier, and shared it silently. Moments later, my phone vibrated with a notification. She is unwell. She continues to inquire about your presence. Elise, if you would. Be so kind. Only 5 minutes. That message came from my father's sister, a woman who once shared with me, after my dad's passing, that older daughters serve as additional mothers. I found myself at the age of 15. The snow danced gently across the porch step, and I remained silent. That evening a message arrived from Isabel herself. Merely a message, not a phone call. I am aware that I caused you pain. I never anticipated it would hold such significance. I was under the impression that you no longer wished to be involved. Kindly, your presence is essential to me. I find myself at a loss for whom to turn to. I gazed at the message, lost in thought, for what felt like an eternity. Not due to disbelief, but because it marked the first genuine words she had spoken to me in years. Yet, it fell short. Not after all the moments she had sought my assistance, yet overlooked my company. Not after allowing me to disappear from the family photo, without even inquiring if I was still present. My absence went unnoticed. They overlooked the efforts I made on their behalf. As the world crumbled around them, their desire for the scaffolding returned with a fervor. Yet, I found myself no longer forged from steel. I had transformed into a glacier. Chill, motionless, steadfast. The clock neared. Midnight, when the phone rang once more. This time, I answered the call. Not from a place of forgiveness, not due to any softening on my part. I simply wished to avoid letting the silence speak on my behalf. Elise, my mother exhaled, as if she had been stifling her voice for an eternity. I remained silent. She lingered, then occupied the silence as she always did, with explanations cloaked. In the guise of concern, she spoke softly, her words laced with concern. She's not doing well. Isabel, she is. Her appetite is almost non-existent. She remains upstairs, untouched by the world below. She continues to inquire whether you've replied. The faint sound of ceramic clinking echoed softly in the background. It is probably her kitchen. Most likely the same delicate blue teacup she consistently reached for when she sought to project an air of gentleness. I long for your presence, she added, as I gazed through the window of my cabin. Outside, the lake lay still, a perfect sheet of glass. The heavens stretched out, vast and unbounded. A chill that diminished the very essence of sound. At long last, I admitted, it had been years. You simply overlooked my presence. A moment of silence lingered in the air, unyielding, not hasty. Simply remained still. I had no idea you felt that way, she remarked, her voice now barely a whisper. You never mentioned it. No one inquired. She exhaled softly, not entirely a sigh. The mere echo of understanding that all the scripts have run dry, leaving nothing. That still resonates. I'm sorry, she said, her voice rising at the end, as if seeking confirmation. I chose not to respond. In the stillness, a realization dawned upon her. For once, she refrained from attempting to mend it. There are no justifications. There shall be no gentle alterations to the narrative of the past. Only the whisper of her breath, the soft, distant tolling of a clock echoes in the background. The stillness shared between two souls as they come to terms with the fact that something had concluded long before, and this was merely the reverberation. Will you be returning home soon? After a moment, she inquired. I surveyed the room, taking in every detail. The polished wooden floor, a wool blanket rests upon the chair. The whisper of the wind caressing the windows. All is uncomplicated. All that is mine. No, I said softly. It seems I have at last found my way back to where I truly belong. We left without a farewell. We simply allowed the call to drift away. I lingered in that stillness, absorbing the tranquility around me. The pain had faded away. It offered me no solace, either. It simply seemed ... Indeed. At the break of dawn, I stirred from my slumber. The cabin exuded a profound stillness, one that demanded nothing in return. Clad in a cozy, thick sweater, I ventured out onto the back deck. The lake beneath lay still, a flawless mirror capturing the soft golden hues of the dawn. The sky unfurled in its vastness, a blank canvas, and in that solitude, a rare sense of tranquility washed over me. After brewing a cup of tea, I jotted down a few thoughts in my journal, then retrieved the thick stationery I had packed from home, yet never put to use. I composed a single letter, concise, unadorned. There shall be no allegations. There were no enumerations of accomplishments or omissions. Only this: I wish you tranquility. I trust that you will speak honestly next time. I trust the invitation will arrive before the apology. Elise. I inscribed it with my complete name, folded it with care, and directed it to the home of my childhood. There is no return address provided. Later that day, I strolled into town and slipped it into a red postbox situated near a bakery that wafted the enticing aromas of cardamom and ash. The man behind the counter acknowledged me with a nod as I walked by, his familiarity stemming from our encounter the previous morning. "It's quite chilly today," he remarked. A smile graced my lips, not quite to the same extent as yesterday. As I made my way back, I paused at the brink of the lagoon. A solitary bench overlooked the shimmering water. I lingered for a moment, cradling a paper cup of coffee, observing the steam as it danced upward and faded away. The phone remained nestled in my pocket, undisturbed. Upon my return to the cabin, I shared one final photograph. An empty wooden chair encased in a blanket of snow. Beyond it lies the lake. No caption provided. Yet, I was certain they would notice it, not due to their following, but because individuals tend to recognize the absence of something when silence lingers for an extended period. On that particular night, I refrained from checking my messages. I refrained from scrolling. I didn't ponder the words exchanged back home. Instead, I prepared a warm soup, ignited a candle's gentle glow, draped a soft blanket over my lap, and found myself revisiting the same page of a book 3 times, not due to distraction, but rather because I relished the stillness, unwilling to rush away from the serene embrace of quietude. This was devoid of triumph, only clarity. There is no resolution, only the vast expanse of space. For the first time in years, I felt a sense of presence, as if I had finally emerged from the shadows. I found myself enveloped in a profound stillness,